All right, welcome back to Boots Come in Pairs, episode three. Very excited to do this again. We were supposed to have another special guest this week, Tim Sestaric, but he ended up having a baby on Monday. So that kind of rules you out. We also have Ryan's birthday today. So happy birthday to Ryan. 30,
3-3, 3-3,
33.
baby.
The threes are
33.
heavy. The threes,
The
that's what I've
threes
been
are
told.
heavy.
That's what I was told this year too. When I'm rounding back at first for softball, they're like, "Oh, is that one heavier after the three?" I'm like, "No, sure, yeah, just a little more sore." Um, but we'll jump right into it. Uh, Cubs reaction. We're sad.
It, yeah, a little bit, yeah, yeah. So I would say sad is appropriate. Um, Disappointed, I would say not as much, at least for me. I mean, obviously, having your team there, something that you want. I mean, when you're playing great baseball so late in the season, I mean, that's just inspiring. Like playing inspired baseball all the way around, doing things the right way. That's the kind of baseball the Cubs were playing in August. That was the kind of baseball they were playing in mid to late July after the All Star break. So, yeah, I mean, you see what the team is capable of, how they were doing things the right way as a group of players. Um, I don't know. You just get a little bit sad and a little bit disappointed based on the outcome. Um, I was talking with our dad the other night. For those of you who don't know, like our dad likes to talk baseball as well. He's a fun character. He's been watching the game for a long time. Him and I were talking a little bit back and forth through text. He said, "Oh, it kind of reminded me of the Red Sox and the Braves collapse in 2011 when they were both teams were in first place going into the month of September, and both teams had historic meltdowns for teams that were so far ahead in the standings. Neither team ended up making the playoffs. The Red Sox got eliminated in Game 163 by the Tampa Bay Rays. That team, I believe, ended up in the World Series. I'm pretty sure they did. If not, it might have been the next year. But yeah, and I had to quickly remind him that like the Cubs, they weren't supposed to be where they were. Like the Red Sox and the Braves back in 2011, they were. So um, yeah, I mean they went 12. I'll look at my notes here. 12 and 17 during that last month. Again, disappointing. There were 8 one-run losses in that month as well. Tim, who is supposed to be on tonight, let us know that after that Red series where they blew 2 games in a row, he said that's the season right there. I'm like, well, not quite yet, but I mean, it was the start of not great things. But I mean, what we can take away from this, at least in my opinion, is that this team had a top 10 offense. Pitching did really well for the most part for a lot of the year. There were some disappointing things. There were some guys who came through. I think there's a lot to look forward to next year, assuming the right moves are made. I know Ross is under contract. I'm not sure if he's really the right guy. There's a lot of questions there. But before I take up too much of this, Brandon, what about you? What's your take on this? How do you feel?
I mean, yeah, we were there on Friday when that was kind of it, like where they no longer control their own destiny, and I was just kind of staring through I mean, the roof was open, but I was just kind of staring up into the sky and like, yeah, that sucked really bad. Like it hurts. It hurts. But I think you're right. It's not the Red Sox collapse from a couple years ago. It's not, expectation. I feel like it was a slow burnout. You could kind of see it coming, like a really slow train crash. Doesn't mean it doesn't sting. You kind of like this team. You're invested into it, but I think they know that like the expectation is higher. They're not just trying to make the playoffs, trying to win. And this team wasn't built to win. They were built, okay. I think Jed was on with his end of year press conference and he was like, yeah, the players wanted to go for it. They went for it. They responded and that's great, but we didn't reach our end goal. So it's not we didn't have a good season. It wasn't, the ending we wanted. We wanted to win the World Series, even though they weren't built for that. But I think they have the right mindset with the rebuild. They're already talking about Pete Alonso, which is great. They're already talking about Bellinger, trying to re-sign him, which is great. Instead of waiting and like, oh, we'll see what free agency brings. Like, no, respond now, do it now. Make these things happen and make sure it doesn't happen again. But yeah, I think as far as expectation, like it was fun just to watch 161 because the last game didn't matter. 161 relative baseball games instead of being in mid-August and like, hey, none of this really matters anymore. Ian Happ can go nuts now because the season's over.
And bat third, and bat third, right?
Right. And when he executes his best base, no, I mean that's when his first couple of years that was the tail. It's like, oh, he doesn't hit till September. Well, they're out of it. Um, but yeah, it stings. It was rough being there, losing to the Brewers and the way they lost in that extra inning game on Friday, and then having them taunt you all the way out of the stadium. And hopefully they lose this series and we can just be done with it
Mm-hmm.
because they're not built to win either. But yeah, definitely hurts. Ross is an interesting one though. You brought up Ross. Why no? I would assume you're no then to Ross in the future.
Yeah, so I am one of the biggest David Ross fans on the planet. I love the guy. I mean, we really got to know him well as a player when he was on the Red Sox, and he helped them to their last championship in 2018. Again, team that was very, very good in a lot of different ways. I don't think people expected them to win that year, even though they were one of the best teams in baseball. But he was a very key cog in that team, just managed the pitching staff well, came up with some key hits. Really, really was. Am I thinking David Ross didn't play for the Red Sox? I'm thinking of
He did.
Cody Ross.
No, David
He
Ross
did
did.
play for the Red.
Cody
I'm
Ross
getting.
too. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I'm
David
getting
Ross.
lost.
Hmm.
I'm getting lost, but that's where I really, yeah. Excuse my brain fart. I was on a good track, and then I lost. I went off the
No,
rails for a second, but
they did
yeah, I
have
really got.
both. They did have both. So
They
it's
did have Cody Ross. Yeah, Cody Ross was in 13, I believe.
hmm
Though
so
Cody
was
Ross
David.
was with like Victorino and all them.
Yeah,
Um,
so was David Ross.
so
So
yeah, Rossi really got to know him there. Coming on the Cubs later in his career, the last years of his baseball career, really got to know him well. He did a lot of the same things that he did in Boston with the Cubs. Really helped uh, bring along that young talent. Really got to like him as a player for sure, and then made that transition into being an analyst. Great baseball guy, great baseball mind. Loved listening to him talk the game. Um, and that's what like I'm a big fan of guys who can do that. Like people really get sick of like Alex Rodriguez and stuff and David Ortiz on the mic. I love every second of it. I love hearing those guys talk shop. I want to hear about their experiences. I want to hear about their approach. I want to hear about how they got ready. I want to hear all that stuff. I'm a baseball junkie. That's what I want to hear about. And I felt like Ross really brought that in his announcing game. And then obviously, like really good choice for a manager, at least in the initial part. Like you're coming back, you're coaching some former teammates. You're a catcher. Catchers are notoriously great managers, just by reputation, just because they're behind the plate for all of it. They see all of it. They have the best view in the best seat in the house, I would say. But I don't know. The thing that I'm out on Ross, and it's kind of like our old buddy Joe Madden. It's like you beat the horse to death. You're constantly tinkering and making moves, and like they say they're not going to do stuff, and then they end up doing it. And it's like I just think the mismanagement of the bullpen and the pitching staff, that was a big one for me. And then also just the stuck in his ways, like we alluded to a couple episodes ago with Hap hitting three. It's like let's shake things up, let's move guys around. Like you can't just
right,
leave a guy there when the results aren't happening as often as they need to. So
right.
to me, um, like love Ross as a player. I like him as a coach. I don't necessarily think he's the right fit as a manager, unless I mean I don't even know who does a good job, like who does a job, who kind of makes the adjustments but also lets guys play at the same time, like who's really good at that in your opinion? I mean, I'm
Well,
trying to think.
that's the thing. I don't think this team was set up for David Ross to be the reason why they lost. Because you can, and I agree, you can go back and forth on bullpen stuff all the time. Brewers fans do it constantly with Craig Counsell. They're like, oh, he's just, he gets to the playoffs, he starts messing around. You know what? The Cubs bullpen was trash this year. Real
Mm,
like what he started with, you get a couple guys. Fulmer pitched better than you thought he would. He started horrible, pitched better. Leiter was good in his role. They elevated him. He wasn't able to get there. Merriweather was good in his role. You have to elevate him because of injuries. He's not the same guy. So I don't necessarily put those things on Ross. I do agree with the. I mean, yeah, we hammer him for the Ian Happ thing. That's almost anti Joe Madden because Joe Madden every day was a different lineup, and you're like, hey, can we just give
mm,
these guys stability? So
yeah.
I think with where the Cubs are at, basically Jed said he goes, we like him, we're going to keep him, we don't care about public opinion, and I don't think that's the wrong move now. If there's something in the future where it's kind of preventing, then it's like okay, maybe we got to make a switch. But I think if the Brewers let Counsell walk, I think that's a huge mistake because
Mm,
you're giving him essentially one guy in the bullpen. It's Devin Williams, or it was Josh Hader for a long time, whatever it is. And it's like, all right, now just figure out everything else around him and make all the right moves and push all the right buttons. So this, he's the best manager that they've ever had. And they're going to run him out of town because he can't win the big one, but like they're not giving him the pieces. So that's where I
mm.
struggle with the swap of the manager, unless it's warranted. And I think for Ross right now, it's not warranted. Do I love every decision he makes? No, but it's you're kind of jostling things that don't need to be jostled at this point. So I don't think it's spent enough time. You know, it's his first job. He had a lot to learn. 2020 was a rough year to manage. So I think giving him a stacked team, and then if he doesn't perform, then that's where you got to really evaluate.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on that too. Like I definitely agree with that. I mean, they guys like Leiter, guys like Fulmer, even Lump, Alzolay into that. I mean, these are guys who really stepped up their game in a big way, especially when they were pitching well.
Right.
But then the trade deadline, you knew that you needed to make some moves, and it's like the only guy they did address a need at third base with Jamer for sure, but not going after a starting pitcher. Your only bullpen addition is Quas. I mean, I thought he did okay at times. He was a nice little addition out of the bullpen, but like you need to get a starter. You need to have probably add like at least two bullpen arms. They like proven bullpen arms, and they just didn't do that. And I think those guys at the end of the day, they just looked gassed. They looked tired. Another thing that kind of was brought up in my conversation with Dad was just, and they said that Dansby brought it up as well, but they were just tired. Like Cubs are Cubs are very much a team where it's like they play a lot of day games. They play more day games than anybody else in the game.
Yeah.
When you go day, night, day, night, day, night, like that really messes with hitters. They can't really get into a routine. They don't have time to fully relax and enjoy. And then you're in the middle of like a divisional race and a playoff race. Like, and they were amped up for a month and a half as well. So eventually you're going to run out of gas. And I think the bullpen definitely ran out of gas, especially with the injuries. Like Mark Leiter at the end, he lost his split finger pitch, which was his most effective pitch. He couldn't throw it for a strike. So he was not the best version of himself. I attribute that to just being tired. And same with a lot of guys who were slumping there at the end, just being tired. I hope that the Cubs kind of see what's going on and they listen to the players. They have control over when they play games. So maybe that's something they speak with the team about and the players, like the management and the organization. Like maybe let's space the day games out. Let's play fewer day games and more night games. I don't know what the reason behind the day games is. It's just something that they've always done, probably because they didn't have lights for the longest time and they just kind of continue with that tradition. But yeah, I mean, they just looked tired to me. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah, and that was something that they addressed at the end too. And they go, yeah, we're gonna look at and see. You know, they might throw more Friday night games, which would be cool, I think. But I think, and you point to it too, when they lost Alzolay, that's really when the bullpen got really short, and you don't have a closer, and they started blowing games late, and that's you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, just give us a chance to blow it in the ninth, right? And they blow it in the eighth or
Mm-hmm.
seventh or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can harp on it, but they need to get better. I think they know that. So, like I said, not at this point. It hurt a lot, but yeah, not
Yeah.
as big of a disappointment. So,
We'll speak on the other stuff later on in the year. I mean, we are already later on in the year, but maybe closer to when the hot stove, when that
yeah,
stuff kind of heats up a little bit. We'll talk about what we think and kind of the rumblings that we're hearing. We'll talk about that more. But
yeah,
again,
it's too early.
just disappointed because of where they were. where they were going, at least in the July and August. But again, I can't really be too upset about what they accomplished this year. It was, I think, just a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, it's not the Mets. Don't ask Met fans how they're feeling because they just
No.
spent $400 million to come in fourth place or whatever it was. So,
Yep.
all right. Well, on to our second name segment that we have. Happy trails to all the retired players. But the biggest one, Ryan got to go to one of his games over the weekend. Miguel Cabrera, who's 21 years in, long career at the Tigers, started with Florida. A guy that we saw go through, we went to a lot of King County Cougar games, low A, so you get to see a lot of names go through, but that was probably the biggest name that we saw, him and Adrian Gonzalez at the time, that I remember, getting autographs from and actually like seeing play. I don't remember the exact at bats, but still,
Yeah.
you remember the names, you remember seeing them go through the ranks, and he shot up really quick and had a long career and hit 306, which I think in today's game is astounding, especially for how long he played. And he was getting at bats pretty much all the way through, um, and they were meaningful for the most part until the last couple of years in Detroit, where they were just kind of spiraling. So,
Mm-hmm.
your personal thoughts on Miggy?
Yeah, I mean, I was chatting with a guy at the as Brandon mentioned, I did go to the game in Detroit on Friday, which was his last series, his last Friday he is ever going to play in the league, and just such a special moment and game to be part of, to be a witness of. Yeah, and like I said, I was talking to this guy who was from Detroit, and a guy probably a little bit younger than me, and we were just talking about like baseball, and it's always nice to run into people who know the game and who experience the game. This guy was actually a scout for the Nationals. He did an internship. He was part of scouting Juan Soto. He was actually Zach McKinstry's roommate in college. He played on the baseball team at Central Michigan. So,
Some
dude, I
double
mean, it was
time.
crazy. It was. So I leave my seat and I was just walking around the ballpark. I'm like, I want to get views from different parts of the stadium while Mickey's at bat. I just wanted to just get a different vantage point. And this guy that I'm standing next to, I was in center field. There's balconies where you can just sit and watch the game. I was right over the Indians bullpen, just taking it in and start talking baseball, start talking stadiums. And he asked me, he's like, so you've been to a lot of games, like, you know the game. He's like, I appreciate that from you just talking. Like, I could tell you know the game by how passionate you are. He's asking me like who is the best you've ever seen play? Like, they're just talking about some of the best that we've ever seen in person. And obviously I rattle off, I mean, I've seen Albert Pujols, I've seen Alex Rodriguez, I said Miggy is 100% in the top five that I've ever watched,
Mhm.
especially from a hitting standpoint. And I would say from a very early age, like Brandon said, we used to go to a lot of Kane County Cougars games. That what the season that he's referring to is in 2001. They were Midwest League champions, which, again, the Midwest League, that's like your first cup of coffee. That's your first full season you're playing in the big leagues. So lots of big talent starts out there, and Miggy was very much in the middle of it as an 18-year-old shortstop. I mean, he was just a skinny twig back then. Adrian Gonzalez was the star in that team, 19-year-old, just hitting the piss out of the ball, doing great things. But you could see something in Miggy back then, just being this 18-year-old scrawny kid. I mean, we see him not even 3 years later. It was 2 years later. He's in the World Series, making an impact with the Marlins. Like, really blossom as a player there, signs a big deal with Detroit, and just explodes. Like, dude's hitting bombs, he's driving in runs, just a pure hitter in every sense of the word. I'm actually going to show you guys this, if you can even see it. So they gave us these posters at the game, and it's my screen's kind of getting in the way, but it's just Miggy on the throne, and it all around it talks about his different accolades. So looking at it, you got 500 homers, you got 3,000 hits, 600 doubles, 12-time All-Star, 2-time MVP, Triple Crown winner. Like, the guy is just as decorated as it comes. And I mean, just the things that he's been able to do. I mean, World Series champion in 03. I mean, obviously, we're knocking on the door quite a bit during his time, mid 2000s to like late 2010s. We were at Comerica in 2013 when they're playing the Red Sox in the ALCS. I mean, 1-0 game, probably the most intense baseball environment that we've ever been in as Red Sox fans. But yeah, just great game. Only scoring of that whole game, Verlander and Lackey throwing darts. But I mean, uh,
Yeah, Napoli.
Mike Knapp hitting a bomb to center field, barely clearing the wall. But
Yep.
again, Miggy's presence and just who he was as a player, like really elevated that team back into the spotlight. I mean, I think prior to him being there, they were one of the worst teams for a little while. Didn't they set? I
Yep.
believe they set the record for like losses at the time, like right
Was
before
he
he signed.
was he there in '06 when they went to the World Series and
I
lost?
believe he. You know
I don't
what?
think
I'm not
so.
sure if he was.
I think
No,
'09 was his first year, but
I
still,
think
yeah,
'09 was his first year.
he kind of put him back on the map, and
Yeah.
um, it's crazy that yeah, you play 21 years, really good ball player, one World Series, and they went to two. Did they? No, they didn't even go to one with him. That's what's crazy is he
I
didn't even get to the World Series with Detroit. But
Yeah, I don't think they
great,
did. No, they
great
were they were in
career.
the ALCS.
Yeah, great career though, and just like I said, all the accolades. I mean, shoe and Hall of Famer. He's got all the numbers. Baseball likes those nice big round numbers, and he's got all of them. Um, I don't know if we're gonna see a more complete hitter just with the way hitters hit today. It just they don't go that way. They don't hit for a high average. You have a Luis Ariz, and then you have everybody else. Maybe Acuna, if he can stay on the field long enough and do stuff. Like I said Mike Trout. We already talked about him. He just can't stay on the field. So I
Hmm.
for that long and that good and that like I said, usually over the course of a career you're not hitting 300. So to do that is the biggest accomplishment I think that he had
Oh,
for sure.
for sure. And I mean, just kind of going back to the game that I was at, I mean, it was definitely his best offensive performance of the whole series. He went 3 for 4. Uh, he hit 2 doubles. I mean, frozen rope down the left field line when I was in my seat. And then when I was in center field, he ripped one into the right center gap. I mean, definitely doesn't have the speed he used to have. He's not as fleet of foot. I mean, he never was the fastest guy, but definitely struggling to move around. But that stroke is still there, and just a special player. And then on Sunday, actually, they allowed him to play the field. He played first base, and he actually didn't have a glove. A
I
lot of
saw
people
that,
didn't
yeah.
know that. So Spencer Torkelson, their first baseman, who again that's a guy who I'm really excited to see play more. He just seems like a good dude as well. Miggy has definitely imparted his knowledge and his professionalism on him. But so he plays with Torque's glove, and then he signed the glove, and then just listed all the accolades that were like on my poster. So just super cool moment. He actually, I believe, he posted it on his Instagram. Torque did, but again, just speaks to the kind of player he is, and I think he really made a lasting impact on these young Tigers players, and they actually had a better season than a lot of people thought as well.
Yeah.
So they were very, very close to being 500. And yeah, I think Miggy's got a lot to do with ushering this new um, era of talent in Detroit. I mean, America is a great place to watch a game as well. And yeah, I mean, being a Michigan native now, I mean, I'm about 2.5 hours from Detroit and about 2 hours from Chicago. So it's cool to be able to just hop in my car and shoot across the state, or shoot down to Illinois if I want to watch some games. But yeah, I mean, yeah, just can't speak enough to Miggy. Definitely one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. So another one retiring is Adam Wainwright. About time. He's one of those guys. It's like I'm sure he was and he said it. He was throwing with the intent of I want 200 wins, and basically, if he'd have thrown one more game, his shoulder had a tear in it. Like he was going for that number, which good for him. Cardinals had a bad year, good for us. I don't mind that, but yeah, about time. You thought he'd go out with Yachty. I think the two of them, you can kind of see the career, but another guy, long career. Remember in '05 when he struck out Beltran? Was that '05 or '06? But yeah, he
Oh
just had that
six,
'06. He had
oh
that
six,
nasty
oh six, oh
curveball.
five, oh five is a year we're not going to talk
Oh yeah, no,
about.
you know, talk about the White Sox here. But yeah, he just, he froze Beltran, but he was doing that all post. You're like, why can't anyone hit this curveball? But like, no one was able to hit it for 20 years. So he really had that longevity as well. Again, happy to see, he's a nice guy. I won't, I won't bad talk him because he's a Cardinal, but yeah, another long career. We got a long look at him as a Cub killer for a long time too. So
Mhm.
just yeah, testament to this kind of crap that's going away. You feel like the players just aren't playing as long anymore, especially in baseball.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Wayno was just, again, as a Cubs fan, just a thorn in our side for over a decade. Well decorated. The interesting thing to me about Wayno, for sure, was his, I would say, his ability to adapt. I mean, this is a guy, he's a big fella, 6'7", throws gas, cutter, slider, the curveball. I mean, just the ability to mix pitches well. But he went through stretches in his career where he like didn't pitch well, and
Yeah,
then he was able to rebound. So there's like 3 or 4 years where he's like unhittable, and then he goes through a rough patch. I mean, part of it had to do with some injury, but like there were spots later in his career where he was just unhittable again. I mean, just unbelievable the things that he was able to do. But that just goes back to the craft of pitching. Like, I'm not just a thrower. I can use my stuff. I can use my grit. It helps when you play for a world class organization like the Cardinals as well. Someone who believes in you. I know it's painful to talk about, but again, just epitome of professional. I would take him on my team
yeah,
7 days out of the week. I mean, just great career. I will miss watching him pitch against teams that are not the Cubs. But
yeah.
I mean, again, just super cool. 200 wins is great. Over 2,000 strikeouts is great. Um, I actually looked on Baseball Reference because the Cardinals won twice during his time there, but he missed the entire 2011. I think they won in 2011. Was it 2011? Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
2011.
because they didn't win '06. They no,
They won in
they
'06.
won
They
in
won in
'06 and
'06,
they won in '11.
but they gave him they gave him a ring in 11, even though he didn't pitch
Yeah,
the whole year because he
of
had
course.
Tommy John. So he
And
still had he's technically a 2-time World Series champion. He just didn't have, but yeah, I mean, the '06 one was as a rookie, and I mean, he closed out the biggest games of the NLCS, like that you're talking about, that disgusting curveball he threw Beltran and put him in a rocking chair,
yeah,
and then he closed out the Tigers as well. So I mean,
they give a guy if he pitches one game a ring. They give the Bat Boy a ring. So yeah, of course you got a ring.
yeah,
You contribute to the season, you get a ring. So yeah, but no, yeah, he
yes,
again testament to his whole career. Then yeah, if they won in his tenure there, give him the hardware. That's fine. We don't, but
yeah,
yeah, we don't need to talk about those dark ages.
yeah,
Let's talk about the good years in between there. The Tito era. Yeah, Tito Francona hanging up. Had a lot of health issues lately. I kind of thought this was coming. Just wasn't in the best shape to manage the team. But another long career. They talk about how he got ran out of Boston, and it's like he did such a great job, but like it's a tough market, just like the Cubs are a tough market to like have sustained success in. I wouldn't have imagined Joe Madden getting run out of town as fast as he did, but like the Red Sox did the same thing with Tito. You win, you go from never winning to winning multiple, and now it's get out of here. You're not good enough. We need to bring in somebody else. It's like crazy, but like yeah, great Red Sox manager, great Indians manager. Glad he didn't win that one in 16.
mm,
Thank you for that. But yeah, just ending the first one in '04 was a nice curse ender, and then just everything he's done. He'll be another Hall of Famer. Again, even though he got ran out of town for that collapse of a year, but
mm. Yeah. I mean, talk about a guy. I mean, I would say when it comes to favorite managers of all time, Terry Francona is my number one. Like, it's not even close. And just coming from that like baseball pedigree, like his dad Tito played. I mean, he went to University of Arizona. He won the Golden Spikes Award. He had a pretty good MLB career, aside from the fact that he was hurt quite a bit. That's kind of what took his legs out from underneath him. I mean, literally, I think it was leg issues with Terry Francona. But I mean, just a baseball guy through and through. I mean, being coached at various levels of the minor leagues. bench coaches in the major leagues. Really, the first shot that he got, aside from he started his career with Philly after they had their success in the early 90s, but with Boston in '04. And talk about what that means after going through so much heartache. I mean, his first year as a manager for the Red Sox was in 2004, coming off two very successful years that Grady Little had. Obviously, one of the most devastating series losses to the Yankees in '03. When you thought, I mean, everybody thought was wanting that to be a Cubs Red Sox World Series in '03. Ended up being a Yankees Marlins World Series, and our boy Miggy got his win. But yeah, just all the heartache that the Boston fans had to go through. Obviously, the torment from the years of losing to the Yankees and not coming up short, ending the curse in '04 with that just incredible group of players, unlikely group of players, but with equal amounts of star power. Him being able to win again in '07 with the Red Sox with a completely different lineup, different players, some of the same core guys. Just super cool to be able to do that. It was a very sad day for us as fans when he got ran out of Boston and just wasn't really didn't sit really well with me. But we've talked about it in the past. When you're in a big market like that, you're a successful team. You're expected to be there every year, and when you're not, the manager's usually the first guy to go. And just really stepping away from the game for a little bit. Another, like I talked about it with Ross earlier, his an analyst, man, was just incredible. Like, just love listening to guys talk shop, talk about the game, talk about their experiences. Like, very much enjoyable listening to him. I remember listening to him as an analyst, and just wonderful to listen to. Getting another shot with the Indians, and despite having the health issues, just really, really doing well with them, bringing that franchise back to where they were in the '90s, where they were just a machine, doing it with different players, doing it with different styles. Just awesome. I mean, just shy of 2,000 wins for his career, two-time manager of the year. I think he won manager of the year his second last year. I think '07 was the other year where he won it. But I don't know. Just there's not enough I can say about Terry Francona. Just wonderful game. He will be dearly missed. I hope that we get to be around him in some facet, whether that's as an announcer or as an analyst. I just want to listen to more Tito ball, man. It's just fun.
I bet he finds a place in a front office somewhere where he doesn't have the day-to-day grind of managing, and they just want to pick his baseball mind. But yeah, I agree. Just baseball lifer, just kind of his body, same as when he's a player. Yeah, just kind of betray him a little bit right now, and like I said, kind of elongate him in other facets. But yeah, go move on to the next Red Sox. Not a retirement, a little more somber, but Tim Wakefield. This one is a little, I feel like he just retired 12 years ago. But great Red Sox, kind of unorthodox with the knuckleball. Great. I honestly thought he was going to be the next manager. Him or Veritek. I was like, oh yeah, they're going to pop one of them in there. And then, I didn't even see what happened other than that he passed away, but 57, right? Like not that old. Kind of just another one of those. Like I said, we're having Miggy retire, who we've watched our whole life, and then this another guy who basically pitched our whole life too. Kind of just not here anymore. So yeah, crazy. Like I said, in '03 he was the guy who let up the homer, got the redemption in '04, but just consummate pro. And to throw a knuckleball and pitch as long as he did is really a testament to who he is, because the only other person who he threw it was R.A. Dickey, and he had 1 year. So
yeah,
and yeah, he pitched for a long time too. But just he wasn't a gimmick either. I think he was a legitimate pitcher, and he served a lot of roles even late in his career. So
yeah. I mean, this one really hurt a lot. I mean, definitely what it just embodies what it means to be a professional. Did everything the organization asked of him every single time out. I mean, I've been watching a lot. I mean, again, you guys know, maybe if you didn't know before, but like our family, we're big Red Sox fans as well. And just the joy to get to watch him pitch and just do whatever the team needed him to do. I've been watching a lot of content the last couple of days and just seeing different posts and tweets and all that stuff from former teammates, and it just goes to show like how much this guy meant, not just as a teammate, but as a person. Um, Again, the stats are incredible for him. I mean, Red Sox Hall of Fame, 200 wins, over 3,000 innings pitched. I mean, looking at stuff like ERA, it just doesn't even show the grit and the perseverance that he had. I mean, this is a guy who was I mean, he was a first baseman going into it. Like his last shot to stay in the game was to become a pitcher and to become a knuckleballer, and he really mastered that. He really took this unique role, this unique became a part of this unique, crazy fraternity. I mean, there's only been a few knuckleballers in the history of the game that have been successful, and again, just really embodied what it meant to be a great player. It just again, it hurts.
Yeah.
It's emotional. But yeah, just again, hearing his teammates, hearing former coaches just talk about him, like the guy would sacrifice starts for the better of the team. They'd bring him in a blowout game. They'd say, "Wake, we need you to go. We need you to go. We need you to go 4 or 5 more innings so we can save the bullpen." And he did it. He did it in the regular season. He did it during the playoffs. I mean, even earlier in the career when he was with the Pirates, like when they were making some playoff runs, like he was doing it back then. Like he is just again constant professional. I can't say it enough, and it's such a sad thing that he's gone so early, but just incredible to see the impact that he's made on the game as a player, as a broadcaster with Nesson and Boston. I mean, he just loved the Red Sox, loved the organization, loved his teammates and his coaches and the fans. If you guys ever get a chance, watch his retirement speech. It's so cool to see his appreciation and just how much he loved being on the diamond. And to see George Kirby throw a knuckleball during the last game of the season in honor of him was so cool. That was awesome. In the Mariners game on Sunday, it's just super cool.
Well, yeah, and if you don't know, a knuckleball is going like 60 miles an hour. So to pitch as long as he did and stand out there with major league hitters throwing about 60 is pretty impressive because it means your ball's doing something. Also, MVP '05, you can't hit him. So,
No, I mean the other crazy thing, just again talking about his sacrifice, like there was a game at the Pirates where he threw 170 pitches in 10
oh,
innings. There was a game at the Red Sox where he threw like 140 pitches. Again, the guy was just a warrior. And look at his stat line all you want. It does not tell you the kind of player that Tim Wakefield was. Like, oh, 4.4 career ERA. Like, the guy took bullets for his team. Like,
yeah,
just professional, great teammate,
right.
whatever the organ. That is the kind of player that you want in your organization. If you could have 40 Tim Wakefields on your roster, just from a mindset standpoint, like you'd take that every day of the week.
Right. Well, I remember they got rid of Doug Mirabelli, who was his catcher. He used to have a softball mitt for
Yeah,
catching him. But like they got rid of it, they sent him out to San Diego or just let him go to free agency and they had I think it was Josh Bard trying to catch him and he just couldn't do it. Like the ball was coming in and they were trying to work them all spring, couldn't do it. So then they call Mirabelli they call up San Diego and they're like, we need to get Mirabelli back. And they brought him
yeah.
back. I think that was '06, '07, whatever it was. But
Hmm.
like that's how crazy his pitches were that you couldn't just throw anyone back there. Like you needed the right catcher too, and that was a good combo for a long time for them. So
I mean,
because even
and
Varisack couldn't do it.
yeah, Veritek couldn't do it. I mean, current major league manager for the Rays, Kevin Cash, was his personal catcher after Mirabelli was. And there were moments where like Jared Saltalamacchia was his catcher. Like
Yeah,
there were guys who got a lot better at it. But yeah, Doug was the guy, man. Doug was definitely the guy early and Kevin Cash a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, it takes a special kind of player to do that, to work with a pitch like that, to perfect a pitch like that. Just incredible what he was able to do. I mean, even early on in his career when he was trying to figure the knuckleball out, like he went to the Necro brothers. Phil and Joe were the guys. They kind of steered him on the right path, and he was able to carve out a really nice career for himself. It's just Yeah, super cool. It's even better when they're on the teams that you love when you get to see guys like that, but definitely not a gimmick. Furthest thing from it.
Right.
Competitor, warrior, great teammate, and he will be missed by all of us for sure.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Well, as we're really reliving our Red Sox playoff successes here, we can
Getting
talk about
heated,
the
man.
yeah, we can talk about the current playoffs. A lot going on right now. We got 4 games today. A lot of wild card stuff. Hopefully the Brewers get knocked out here. But anyways,
They're down 5-2 currently.
I don't hate the Brewers. I hate Brewer fans. And they're
Me
hauling
too.
trash. This guy on the so you know how they have the shuttles that come and pick up people after the games. We're walking in the parking lot, and this guy because there's tons of Cub fans because we travel well to Wrigley North, and he just yells out the bus like, "Have fun not being in the playoffs." It's like, well, you're almost out of the playoffs too. So there you go. But anyways, we don't have to we don't have to harp on it. But yeah, we won't get into every aspect of what's going on because we got some games going on. But we'll do a little what do you think's going to happen. So before this, we kind of put down our stuff, so we don't know if they're exactly the same. But we'll start with who do you think the best team is in the playoffs? Not that they're going to win necessarily, but who the best, most talented team is currently in the playoffs, in your opinion?
Well, most talented is pretty easy. Um, Obviously, it's the team with the best record. I mean, not just because they have the best record, but I mean, we were talking about it on the last show where, I mean, the Braves are just loaded. Like, there's not a weak spot in their lineup. They have enough pitching on the starting end and the relief, in the relief. Um, I think they're definitely the most talented team, but if they won it all, I'd be surprised. There's just something about, I just don't think they quite have that grit that you need to do it. I don't think they have guys on their team who are willing to like lay down a sacrifice bunt and really get dirty. I think they like clean uniforms aside from the fact that Ronald Acuna stole 70 bases, but they just don't have that grit to me. I could be completely wrong with what I'm saying, but something about me just doesn't think that they're a lock. They're definitely the most talented, but they're not a lock to me.
So Len Casper said it when I can't remember who was doing it, but he goes, I think it was supposed to Contreras. So he goes, "Can you bunt the ball onto Waveland?" Or in other words, can you bunt the ball out of the ballpark? No, the Braves hit so many homers. Of course they're not going to bunt. Why would you bunt? That's an opportunity to hit it out of the park. Um, I I have a different team as my best team. I have Baltimore. I think Baltimore is the most talented. They tracked down Tampa. They blew out the East was probably the best division in baseball. The AL East, NL East, sure too. But I think it was the best division in baseball. They're the best team in that division. However, I don't think they're going to win just because my personal belief is always you don't have a bunch of first time playoff experience guys and they're going to, have a bunch of success. I think they might struggle with the pressure. I think they might struggle with, different atmosphere. Every game matters now. Over the course of 162, you can win a lot of games. Are you going to win the playoffs? No, but I think they have a lot of talent. I think these playoffs will be good for them. I think going forward, they have a lot to look forward to in Baltimore. Um, but that's just, I don't know. They have a lot. They have a lot going for them. But
I hope that they win a series. I hope they end up in the championship series because that's it. I really like them a lot.
I think
I
that'll go a
would
long
I
way for
would
them.
say
Yeah.
if they were a little bit more battle tested and if they had a little bit more in the rotation, I would feel a whole lot better about them. But
Mm-hmm.
I also think that their closer might be out as well. He missed the last part of the season. I'm not sure. I know he's got some kind of arm issue. Um,
Right.
but I mean, having Kyle Bradish and John Means at the top of your rotation. Like Bradish had a great year. He was probably a top 5 pitcher in the American League. He pitched really well. Means was their ace last year. He was hurt most of this year. He came back at the end and pitched really well. So you have 2 guys like that, and they have some turbo arms in their rotation. Obviously, their lineup with Santander and Adley Rushman and Cedric Mullins and Gunnar Henderson. I mean, they have a lot of really nice bats. They're really versatile. They can do a lot of things well. I really just want my hope for them is that they get a playoff series win. Like I am pulling for them personally. Like I would love to see them win, but I'm hoping that they at least get the series win. Like they win a division series, they get a chance to feel what it's like to be in a championship series. I think it'd be very cool. I mean, they've made strides. I mean, I think they had the same record this year or last year that the Cubs had this year. I think they were 83 and 79. So
Yeah.
big stride, 18 win improvement. They've drafted really well. They have a lot of young guys on the farm who are, I mean, Grayson Rodriguez is another pitcher who pitched really well at the end of the season. He's their number one pitching prospect. But yeah, they're a team. I'm 100% with you there. I really want to see them do well. I think they definitely have the talent for sure.
Yeah, they want to win the whole thing, but I think winning a playoff series would be a huge win for that organization because they haven't done much in the last ever. Um, um, Overrated. So I'll go first because
Ooh.
I think you know where I go, but I think Atlanta's overrated. I think they
Mm-hmm.
hit a lot of homers, which is great, but when the pitching is better, you're not going to hit as many. Acuna is great, but I think you're right. They're not really a grinded out team. Again, they could surprise me. I guess it wouldn't be a surprise. They could power through everybody and just blast it and then win the World Series. That could happen. But I think they are a team that is susceptible to falling short when they have all this expectation. And when they won a couple years ago, that was a different team. That had Freddie Freeman. That was a different atmosphere. Their pitching has kind of struggled down the stretch, other than Strider. Um, and they're just they haven't played a meaningful game in about a month. They've been kind of coasting. Sean Murphy plays every other day, doesn't, not getting regular action. So I think they might be a little sleepy and are susceptible to get knocked out. So,
Mm-hmm. I could agree with that. And yeah,
but
that's kind of
you
what
already picked them as your best team, so you can't be
yeah,
overrated. Well, I guess they could be
yeah,
best and overrated, but
yeah. I would say and I mean, I would break down, I kind of said it in my best team. I kind of talked about my feelings about the Braves and why I don't think why they'd win. So I would say my overrated team is the Dodgers.
hmm,
Um, to me, I think their pitching is a problem. They, I mean, so you go into this. Last year, you have Kershaw and you have Walker Bueller and you have Arias and you have all these guys. I don't think they have the pitching that you need to get to the next level. And their offense, I mean, you take Mookie's the best player in baseball, if not a top two player in baseball. I think Mookie's the best. I personally think he's the
hmm,
best. But other than that, I mean, JD Martinez had a really nice rebound year. But you take some of those other pieces out of it, it's like they won a lot of games, but to me, they don't feel super strong. I think they're not as good as their record suggests. I could see them getting bounced out in the first round. As anything's possible. I mean, they could win the World Series again. This is why you make a prediction based on what you've seen. But from what I'm seeing right now, I think they're a little bit, they're a little bit overrated to me.
don't we always think that about the Dodgers, though?
Yeah,
Aren't you always like, how does this team win?
yeah,
You do it every
with
year,
the
and
same
then
with the same guys over and
yeah,
over again.
they have the Austin Barnes of the world. They pay millions of dollars for these other players, and then it's this AAA player Charlie Culberson that hits the big homer. It's like, but yeah, I agree. You can say about the Dodgers every year. You can say about the Yankees every time they get there. They're overrated. But yeah, I that's kind of your Ronald Acuna for me is the Dodgers for you. You're always
Dodgers,
on
yeah,
the
and
schneid with them.
it,
But
it it pains me that one of my favorite players is their starting right fielder. Like it just hurts every time I see him round the bases. It just hurt. Make an
well,
incredible throw. It just hurts.
you know what, Boston, don't be so cheap, and you should have paid him then. If you don't want
Yeah,
to see him running over and winning MVPs still, and probably for the next 12 years doing that, I love the year he had playing right and then going to second and then going to shortstop and like playing well at all three
yeah.
spots. And it's like, man, this guy legit, he could play all three of them and you'd be fine.
He is
So,
the definition of athlete. He
yeah,
does everything well. He
bowler.
can dunk, he can bowl 300 games. He can run routes. Like the guy is an athlete
Yeah,
through and through.
yeah,
Nashville, Tennessee.
very fun to watch. All right, who's winning it though?
Who's winning it?
Who's winning the whole thing?
Who's winning it?
Oh, me? You want me to say it first?
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Who's going?
I think we're heading in the same direction because I kind of felt this way about their team the whole year. They just kind of slid late, but the fact they got in and then they're playing well now, Texas. I
Yeah.
like their lineup. I like their pitchers. I think if you get Max Scherzer right in the head, he'll be great. Corey Seager has been there before, done that. A couple years ago, you're like, why would you sign with Texas? This is why. I mean, they're loaded. Marcus Simeon's really good. Garcia's really good. They have a really good offense. And they just, you know, I think they're a really good team, and they got in, and I wouldn't want to play them.
Uh-uh.
So that's
Yeah.
why I think. Also, Arizona again. We saw them in Arizona. They're very pesky. But and hopefully they knock out the Brewers here too. But like they're a light Texas team to me. But yeah, Texas I think is primed.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, in case you guys don't know where this is going, yeah, my pick is Texas as well. Um, yeah, loaded lineup. They play really well defensively, and
Hmm.
the pitching is just ridiculous. Got Gem from uh, deadline acquisition, Jordan Montgomery threw a great game last night. Nasty Nate uh, threw a gem today.
And Nate Eovaldi is a
Um,
really good postseason pitcher.
he's a great postseason pitcher. Like he's just nasty, throws gas, great off speed. I mean, the back end of their bullpen, they're gonna have Chapman setting up. Jose Leclerc is back. Like he is pitching well. He was their closer a few years ago. I mean, they experimented with Will Smith this year, who had some success in the closer role. They acquired Chapman. Chapman had some success, blew a couple saves as well. But they got a really good bullpen, really good rotation. Like Brandon said, if Scherzer can get right in the head and pitches in the postseason, pitches well, they could be a really dangerous team. Obviously, you'd like to think that they'd probably be the front runner if Jacob DeGrom was pitching, but I mean, it is what it is, man.
Yeah,
He just can't stay on the field, which is disappointing to all us baseball fans who like to watch him pitch. But yeah, I mean, to
that was the
me,
next thought out of my brain was like, if you have Degrom, like, what else? What are you missing here?
yeah, and I mean the other thing, like Corey Seager is just special. If he, I honestly think he should be MVP over Otani in the American League. I don't think there is a player who had a better offensive season in the American League, just all around. The guy is just a pure hitter. We got to see what he could do in a mostly healthy season in Texas. Yeah, like Brandon said, we're watching this off season. Marcus Semien goes to Texas. Seager goes to Texas. All these guys are going to Texas. Like, why? Like, why are you going there? And like Brandon said, this is why. This is why. They're in the divisional round, and I think they're confident that they could beat anyone who they come across.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, and the other thing is, you know how I feel about MVPs being on last place teams. They don't exist. So you can't be the most valuable player of a league when you finish last. So yeah, I
Correct.
respect it. I respect what Otani's doing, but not even close. I just yeah, Seager had an incredible year. If they give it to him, that's fine. But I don't I don't agree because you're not valuable at that point because you're not winning games.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well you heard it here first. Texas is winning.
Yeah,
World Series, go bet, go put whatever money you need, and don't blame us when they don't.
yeah.
Right?
Because we're just guys who like to talk about baseball, and that's the nice thing. That's the nice thing, though. It's that, and I was actually listening to
We can be wrong.
podcast earlier today. It was Joe Rogan with he had David Portnoy on
Mm,
a while ago, and they were talking about podcasting just in general. And the thing that people are really leaning towards, especially now, is that they want to hear people who are passionate and they want to hear people who talk like them. They don't need to hear people who have a journalism degree. Nothing against people who have journalism degrees. Like there's a place for everything in professional sports. It's awesome to have that, to dedicate that time to your craft in school and just going through the different things that you need to go through to be a broadcaster or an analyst. But like at the end of the day, this podcast arena is just a place where people can express themselves and a place where people can just talk about the things that they love. So yeah, I'm glad that we have this space to do that. We're looking forward to having a lot more people on to share their experiences and their stuff as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just cool. I'm glad that we have this space to do this. And again, we're looking forward to really taking that next step and doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, we do have someone who is not having a baby next week coming on, so that'll be fun. But yeah, congratulations again to Tim. Very cool. Very good baseball name coming out of there, Grayson. So like I said, he's already a good Cubs fan. 2 days out of the womb. So there we go. But yeah, we'll look forward to it again next week. Again, Boots Come in Pairs. Signing off here.
Peace,
Peace.
guys.